My birthday is over and I'm officially ready for fall. Every month I make a TBR video where I select different books that I want to read for that upcoming month. I recently decided that I wanted to try a seasonal TBR where I select books that I generally want to read for that season. For me, fall starts the day after my birthday, so it starts August 19th and it goes through November. So September, October, November. This video is going to be for all of the books that I want to read, encompassing those 3 months. I'm going to first talk about the buddy reads that I plan on continuing with my friends. The first series being the Throne of Glass series. There are too many books, which is why I did not bring them with me. Logan and I are still gonna keep reading those books and continue with this Throne of Glass journey. A book this fall that I plan on reading with Mimi is Clytemnestra by Costanza Casati. I am not very sure what this story is about. I know that it is about Clytemnestra, the Greek goddess. It says monarch, mother, murderer, magnificent. I'm not going to read into this just because I love Greek mythology and I want to go into it open-minded and just have no previous knowledge about this Greek goddess. It should be really fun, and I'm looking forward to buddy reading it with my friend. Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This is kind of a serial killer retelling that kind of goes back into some real life events of a sorority serial killer attack in Tallahassee. That's all I really know about this story. I normally don't get afraid by horror books, thriller books, ghosts, supernatural events, but what really freaks me out is just human beings doing bad things, and serial killers are something that really freaks me out just because they are real. These events do happen. Things like this have happened before and can happen again. So this is honestly going to be a story that is probably going to give me shivers, but I've heard it's really good, so I'm looking forward to reading this. I do have the physical copy, but I also think I'm going to listen to the audiobook because I also have the audiobook for this. Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura. This would be a perfect summer read, but summer's almost over, so I'm adding it to my fall TBR. This is a story about 2 archaeologists who are rivals. They hate each other. They have been rivals since grad school. They both get accepted to go on an expedition to explore some Aztec ruins. So there's going to be forced proximity. They're going to have to work and travel together. I think eventually they're going to realize that they're no longer enemies as they spend more time together. This is just going to be so much fun. I think the storyline is a lot like Indiana Jones, which is going to be really fun and different. The last series that I plan on reading with my friend Lauren is the Magnolia Parks Universe series. We are currently on Daisy Hates, and I believe as we get into the rest of the year, we'll continue with this series. I have been having such a good time in this London high society. There are so many characters and POVs, and it's just really fun to read about all of the drama. I am living for it. Let's get into the romance books I plan on reading in fall. A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. Truly, this must be a Greek fall for me because this is a Hades and Persephone retelling. I've had this book for quite some time now, I think since February, and now is just a time that I finally pick it up. I have the first book. I know there are plenty in this series, but I'm finally excited to start this retelling. I don't really know much about Persephone or Hades other than from Hercules. Had to think about that for a moment. So I'm excited to start my first retelling. You Again by Kate Goldbeck. This is a story about Avi and Josh. They first meet each other and they really just don't like each other. Very much enemies at first sight. They realize that they're both sleeping with the same person, the same woman. Arya and Josh end up meeting each other a few years later. They are both heartbroken for their own reasons, so they end up deciding to be friends with benefits, a very no strings attached moment. They start hooking up, and I think sparks start to fly and emotions start to rise, and it turns into more than just friends with benefits. I think this is going to be the perfect book for fall because the cover is stunning. I love the cover, but also just because it takes place during the fall, I believe, in New York City. What more do I need to say? Director's Cut by Carlin Greenwald. This was gifted to me by Vintage Books. This is a book about a girl named Val. She's 29 years old and an acclaimed actress. She lately hasn't been able to find any acting jobs, so she decides to go into full-time teaching and become a professor. When she gets to university, she has to co-professor with Maeve, and they start to hit it off and they start to have romantic interests with each other. However, a few weeks later, what we find out is that Carlin's debut directorial movie is getting some hits, and now she has to decide if she wants to stay back and be with Maeve and continue with her teaching career or go back to Hollywood. I think this is going to be a beautiful and fun sapphic romance. I think the plot is very different. It's going to be really fun to go back and forth between the Hollywood setting and then an academic setting as well. Seems very unique, and I can't wait to read it this fall. Salt Kiss by Sierra Simone. This is the first book in the Lioness trilogy. I do have the sequel, but gotta get through the first book first. This is a Tristan and Isolde retelling, and I honestly know nothing about this story besides the movie, which I haven't even watched. Basically, in this first book, Tristan, he is kind of just lost after coming back from the army, and he used to be a soldier. He ends up meeting Mark, and Mark is the owner of an ultra secret kink club, and Mark hires Tristan to be his bodyguard. So now Tristan is working for Mark. At one point, Mark hires Tristan to be a bodyguard for Mark's fiancée, who is Isolde, as Isolde travels back from Ireland. Tristan starts to have feelings for not only Mark, but also Isolde. So this is going to be a love triangle, if you might say. I think that this book is going to be dark, messy, a little bit forbidden, and just a good time. I am looking forward to the vibes, and also an ultra secret kink club. The next genre that we're getting into is the fantasy-esque realm. Rouge by Mona Awad. I am extremely thrilled to read the story, and I've been putting it off just for the fall vibes. I read Bunny a while ago, and it was one of the weirdest books I've ever read in my life, and this seems right up my alley. This is about our main character, Belle. She's obsessed with skincare and skincare videos. Her mom ends up dying for some odd reason. Belle moves back to California to deal with her mom's belongings and tend to the funeral, and when Belle goes to the funeral, there's this creepy old lady who shows up and gives Belle a clue as to why her mother died and sends her this cryptic video. Belle ends up going to this cultish spa, and she ends up learning about all of the secrets that her mom was hiding and how the spa might be related to her mom's death. I think that we're not only going to learn about her mom's death, but we're also going to learn more about why Belle is so obsessed with skincare and just how that plays into the story. I myself am fascinated by skincare, and I've been watching skincare videos on YouTube for the longest times. I can't even remember, maybe since college and before college. So I think this book is going to be really something that I can relate to, and not only talk about skincare and beauty, but talk about how horrific it can be, especially if there is a cult involved. I am really excited to read this story and add it to my fall TBR. One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. This is the Shepherd King duology. I am really excited to read this duology because, one, it's a duology. I'm trying to read more fantasy standalones and fantasy duologies just because fantasy is a lot. So I'm starting slow and with baby steps. This is supposed to be about a girl named Elspeth, and she essentially needs to unleash a monster to save the world and save her home. That's all I really know. I know that this is a dark gothic fantasy, and it's just supposed to be really good. I've heard nothing but good things. This book just took social media by storm, and this series is just supposed to be like no other. I know that tarot cards are involved, and I personally don't participate and use tarot cards. I just love the idea of it. It's very fascinating to me, so I think I'm going to enjoy this duology very much. The Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I've had this book since October of 2023, so it's about time I either read it or get rid of it. I want to read it before October ends. That is my goal. This is a story about a girl named Opal. Opal is an orphan, and she is just trying to make money to help her brother kind of have a better life. She and her brother live in Eden, Kentucky right now. And in Eden, Kentucky, there is a house called the Starling House, which is supposed to be a haunted house. Starling House is owned by Arthur Starling, who is also the author of The Underland. Opal is obsessed with The Underland. She loves the book. There is one day where Opal gets the opportunity to make some extra money by going inside of the Starling House, and I think once she does that, there are some ghosts and hidden secrets that start to unravel, and we kind of learn more about Arthur and why he's been missing for 100 years. This book sounds spooky, eerie, and just a perfect Halloween read. But I'll be finishing it before Halloween. That is the goal. What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. I've had this book since November of last year, so I need to read it or ditch it. But I've heard such good things about this book, and the sequel is coming out eventually, so I want to read this story. This is about our main character. Her name is Inez. Her parents are globetrotters. They're traveling all the time, but they never take her with her. On one of their trips, her parents end up dying, and they leave her with quite a bit of a fortune, including a ring that used to be her dad's. The ring ends up taking her to Cairo for some odd reason, and the ring turns out to be magical. So when she arrives in Cairo, I think the magic just starts to erupt and something just opens up, and I think this is going to be very much a story like The Mummy and Death on the Nile. I've never seen Death on the Nile, but I love the Mummy movies. The Mummy Returns is such a fun movie. I am a big fan, so I think this is going to be a perfect book to end the year with. Fall TBR. The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I am terrified to read this story. I got it when it first came out, and I've been putting it off until the fall just because it seems like a book with very eerie fall vibes, but also I read Ninth House, and I did not like it at all. I ended up DNFing it. This is a story that takes place in the Spanish Golden Age era, so quite different, but still has magic and fantasy within it. This is about our main character. Her name is Luzia. She has the ability to use magic to build and create things. This is a story about breaking a specific curse. That's all I really know. I know that she's going to have to work with alchemists and other magicians, and then there's an immortal familiar that's in this story as well that she might have romantic relationships with. Unsure. That is all I really know, and that's all I'm going to know going into the story. I don't want to spoil anything for myself or sway my emotions toward this book because I'm already pretty hesitant. The last genre of books that I am going to talk about is the thriller, mystery, horror, all of that encompassing into one. The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Shocking, I have never read any of Lucy Foley's stories. I love thriller, and I would probably really like her writing, and I've heard that she is a great mystery thriller author. This book was actually given to me by my really good friend Lauren when I first started BookTube back in December of last year, January, and I have not read it, but fall would be the perfect time to pick this up, and I'm glad I'm saving it for that. Honestly, the back of the book doesn't really say much. I think that this is going to take place in a Paris apartment. It just says, meet the residents of number 12 Rue des Amants, a beautiful old apartment building in the City of Light. There's going to be a few different characters that are going to be in this apartment. I think that something goes wrong, someone dies, everyone is a suspect, that sort of thing, where we're gonna try to figure out who did it. Should be a fun and easy read. A Cosmology of Monsters by Sean Hamill. This is a book that was recommended to me by a bookslinger at Rainy Day Books. This is about Noah Turner, and he sees monsters. His dad sees monsters, his whole family sees monsters, and their job is to keep the monsters at bay and kind of just like hide them. However, the back of the book is pretty vague. But we know that Noah Turner sees monsters, but unlike his family, Noah lets the monsters in. So I think that something is going to go wrong, and Noah is just going to unleash the horror and the monsters. That's all I got for you. Very, very vague of a back cover synopsis, but sometimes those are the best. You don't really want to know the story. You want to go in blind a little. The first two books in the Edinburgh Nights series, the first one being The Library of the Dead. This is about our main character. Her name is Ropa. She can talk to ghosts. She is a ghost whisperer / ghost talker. She makes a living by having people pay her to communicate with ghosts. So that's how she affords living in Edinburgh. She slowly starts to hear different whispers from ghosts that there are children being bewitched. So now she goes out on this journey and mission to try to figure out why these children are being bewitched and who is doing it. I think this is the perfect October read. It's going to be spooky, there's going to be ghosts involved, and Edinburgh just seems like the perfect eerie fall location to read about. I'm really excited. There are 3 books total out right now in this series. So if I like the 2, then I will be reading the 3rd. The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This is a highly anticipated release for me. I am so excited to read this story. This was gifted to me by Aardvark Book Club. This is a story about a girl who has an obsession with eating her, I think, mother's boyfriend's eyes. It just sounds very bizarre and weird and creepy and honestly very unhinged in my opinion. It reminds me a lot of those female raged and unhinged behavior type of stories. I would categorize it as that. That is all I know about the story, and I've heard it's really good. It's gross, and that is what I need for a fall book. The Girls in the Garden by Lisa Jewell. I have to say, my 2 favorite thriller mystery authors, I said mystery weird, are Frida McFadden and Lisa Jewell. I think Lisa Jewell just writes the best unpredictable stories, and I am looking forward to reading this one. This takes place in urban London. This family ends up moving to Virginia Park after a father's schizophrenic break ends in a tragedy, so I think he ends up dying. So this family moves to a different part of London. It's in Virginia Park, and it's a pretty nice and safe and wealthy community. Everyone really likes each other, everyone trusts each other. One night, one of the children is found in the garden unconscious and with blood all over themselves, and nobody knows what happens. So I think that this is going to be a dark mystery where we're unraveling secrets, where we're going to see some plot twists, and we're not going to see some events coming. This is going to be perfect for the fall and spooky vibes and getting into the winter time, and I am really excited that I picked this up for $2. All right, those are all of the books that I plan on reading in the fall months, September through November. I am really excited. Normally I read about 10 books a month, so if I keep this momentum up, then I should get through a lot of them. This should be good. Let me know what you have on your fall TBR and what you're planning on reading, and also if there's a book that you think I need to read right now and add it to the top of my TBR pile for the season. Let me know in the comments down below too. I would love your thoughts. No spoilers, please. Until next time, I will see you in another video. Have a great day. Bye.